So what am I doing differently than my dad? Well, some things I do much better than him. I'm more rigorous with my supplementation. I take more things, and I measure myself, not just with my watch and my what else do I have? I have scales. I have a ring, but I also do blood testing fairly regularly every few months, and that helps me guide what I do. Uh, and I eat better than my dad. I'm predominantly plant focused. I try to be vegan. I struggle, but I try. But I do avoid a lot of sugar and meat if possible, and so my diet's better than his. But what I don't do that he does way better than me is he has a very active social life. He's out 7 days a week with people who love him, and he's surrounded by a social network. And he also exercises a lot more than me. My exercise is planking and occasionally the gym and doing a lot of walking and lifting weights when I get a chance. But I'm on the road a lot and I'm often on planes. So I'm not good at that. Whereas he exercises every day. He goes to the gym 3 times a week and he walks about 6 kilometers every couple of days. So that's very good for him. But if you're wondering what does he do that's good besides exercise, he's taking NMN, he's taking resveratrol, takes metformin. Those are the three that I often talk about. And he only eats one, maybe 1.5 meals a day, and he doesn't overeat, and he stays a healthy BMI. So all of that together seems to work really well for him. His doctor complains that he's the only of her patients that doesn't have any diseases, and often she says she doesn't even know what to do with him except take his blood pressure. He's on a statin as well, like I am, because we have high cholesterol in our family. But other than that, I think it's mostly exercise and diet that's working for us, and having good people around us.
Well, we'll pivot away from your dad, at least for now, focus in on you. And you gave a bit of an idea of what your diet looks like. But let's get into specifics. A typical day, what you're eating, and when you're eating.
So I've got to credit my partner, Serena Poon. If you have followed me on social media, you know that she's my honey. She's a chef, nutritionist, and a longevity expert as well. And she put me onto a vegan diet. Now, I struggle with veganism because we eat at restaurants, and often restaurants have butter or milk in their products or cheese. But I try not to eat a lot of meat or seafood. And I found some very good substitutes through Serena that taste no different than regular. And I don't drink milk if I can. So it's a plant-focused diet. My first meal of the day is rarely breakfast. I start with lemon water and then a green tea matcha. That's basically it. I have a little bit of yogurt. That's no secret. But I do that primarily because I need to dissolve my polyphenols. I take resveratrol, a gram. I take occasionally some quercetin, fisetin, apigenin in smaller doses, but resveratrol is my mainstay, a gram a morning. And I mix that with a couple of spoons of vegan yogurt, coconut-based yogurt, or olive oil. That's the beginning of my day. The green tea matcha I love. I have probably 2 of those every morning. And I switched to that. Serena told me, get away from the coffee. And I like that. Coffee's acidic for me, too acidic. And the green tea matcha. But make sure you get organic and most importantly, ceremonial grade, because if you just get the regular, it tastes like dirt. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's worth it. And you want to stir it really well with a bar mixer. It's a little bit slow doing it the traditional bamboo stir. And I use almond milk in that and some allulose for sweetener. And sometimes I put some polyphenols in that because they dissolve in that as well. So that's the start to my day. And I'm not hungry until mid-afternoon.
Okay, so to get into some details here, the matcha latte or two, and the yogurt or the coconut oil with various supplements, that's all during your fasting window then?
I still regard that as fasting, right? I'm monitoring my blood glucose, so I want to make sure I don't spike my sugar. And so the yogurt doesn't do that. Of course, there's no sugar in my yogurt. I avoid the fruity ones. And if it says cane sugar or anything on anything that I put in my mouth, I usually don't put it in my mouth. Occasionally, I'll steal dessert, but it's only for a treat. So yes, that's exactly what you said is right, except with one mistake, which was olive oil, not coconut oil. I do put coconut oil in my mouth probably a few times a week. I melt the oil in my, it's solid. You spoon it in, and Serena taught me that that's very good for oral microbiome health as well as breath. And there's an added bonus is that it sucks the stains out of your teeth. And she has really white teeth, and I said, you must get these bleached. And she said, no, it's the coconut oil. But don't swallow the coconut oil. Just rinse it, pull it through your teeth for about a minute or two, and then spit it down the drain.
So you mentioned the current diet is primarily vegan. How long have you been on that diet?
Pretty much since I met Serena. We just had our 3-year anniversary. And we were Zooming most of the time because it was the end of COVID. And she would watch me eat dinner. I thought I was eating a healthy Mediterranean dinner. And it was cheese and red wine, right? Not the greatest. And I didn't look great. My skin was okay for my age. And she said, let me educate you. She didn't say it that way, but she did educate me, and she got me off the cheese and the red wine. I stopped alcohol 3 years ago. And within 2 months, my inflammation went down, my CRP, my cortisol went way down, my blood sugar improved, my skin improved, my hair improved. I mean, my son accused me of getting hair transplants the other day, a hair transplant, but this is still natural. So I think that the diet's helping my overall appearance, but it's definitely helping how I feel. And the inflammation is way down in my body. I think I had a slight allergy to dairy, like most people do who eat dairy their whole lives. And as a consequence, I don't have that anymore. And my gut is a lot better as well.
Any new supplements you brought in specifically to help round off that diet?
One of the things the two of us bond around is our supplementation. Quite literally, we're quite the couple where if we want to be kind to each other, we give each other the supplements. So it's a lot. And it varies. I change my supplementation depending on my blood work. So there's no one size fits all. That's important. I need to disclose, I'm not a physician. I'm a PhD. So I'm not here to prescribe anything. But I do feel like I have an obligation to talk the truth, to talk about what I do. So that's the disclaimer. I know some scientists don't like me for that, for being honest and telling what I do. But, so be it. I do this for educational purposes, right? But make sure you let your doctor know and you do some blood tests so you know if things are hurting you or helping you. I also do the NMN, a gram, the metformin, although I'm doing more berberine these days, which is a natural version of metformin, taking a gram of that in the morning. And then I do my resveratrol 1 gram. I'll do a small teaspoon of apigenin, which is a CD38 inhibitor that blocks the degradation of NAD. So resveratrol and NMN have a bigger impact. We found, actually, we were the lab that found apigenin is the CD38 inhibitor. Speaking of NMN, I do want to pause on something, Jesse. I don't sell NMN, though you might find my name on bottles and on websites. I just want to make it clear that I don't endorse NMN products or anything, any supplement, actually. And if you do see products that have my name on them, just know that that's unethical. And the other thing is, I was shocked to learn that the NMN industry just in 2023 was $2.5 billion worldwide. And so anytime I say, I take NMN, I'm actually boosting global sales of the molecule. That's not my intention. I'm not trying to make money. I'm not trying to help companies make money, but that's just a fact. I am developing a version of NMN as a medicine that will be able to be proven to work. Right now, NMN is not yet proven to work. As I mentioned, there's a few clinical trial hints that it's good. But that's where we are with NMN. I also want to say something else, Jesse, which listeners may know. I've been accused of trying to get NMN off the market. That's completely wrong. Uh, there's always gossip on the internet, but that one is really quite upsetting. I'm all for supplements. I think anyone should be able to take really anything that they want as long as it's safe and the doctor knows about it. So I'm not responsible for what the FDA does. My role in this was that I started a company to try and test if NMN works in humans. There is an FDA ruling that I have nothing to do with, and a company that I don't control that led to NMN being part of a statement that the FDA made that NMN should not be sold as a supplement in the United States because it's being tested as a drug. But of course, I'm not making it a drug so that supplements can exist. I think they serve very different purposes. One is for healthy people and the other one is for sick people. And one is prescribed and the other one isn't. That's great. I have no issue with that. But yeah, that's what the FDA chose to do. But if I had my way, I wouldn't have any say in the matter. And I just wanted listeners to know that, I might be painted as the bad guy, but I'm definitely not trying to limit anything that people take for their health. In fact, I'm trying to educate everybody about what to take to be healthy, to live longer. That's my mission in life. And that's why it's a bit upsetting because it goes against my mission in life is to accuse me of that. Now, the good news is actually NMN is still available in the United States. You can buy it a lot of places, and that's fine. There's an alternative molecule called NR, nicotinamide riboside, which is also sold. And they're pretty similar. There's different amounts of data for NR. NR has been tested in ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, also known as, and NMN has been tested in endurance and those blood parameters. But they both produce NAD, which is what we want to boost in the body to, we think, slow aging. And so, I also don't I don't mind if people buy NR or NMN. I'm not making money off this. Some scientists are, but I'm not. And so I thought I'd mention that there's an alternative to NMN as well.
So the way I understand it, there's B3 at the top, and then NR is made from B3, and then NMN is the next step closer to NAD. And NAD, like you just mentioned, is the molecule we're trying to upregulate in the body and create more of.
I'm very impressed. All I can add is that we showed this in yeast cells in 2002, which was fun. It's come a long way. And I think it's worth knowing that NAD is good for you for a variety of reasons. We make half the levels that we did when we were 20 by the time you're my age, 55. And raising those levels up seems to give the cells a better boost, more energy. And there are genes that control the epigenome. So going back full circle to where we started, the epigenome is controlling the pace of aging, and NAD helps slow that down. The sirtuin genes, which I've studied essentially my whole career, they make enzymes that need NAD to work. And they are part of slowing that scratching of the DVD process. So the less NAD you have, the worse aging seems to tick. That's the theory. And the theory is that by raising NAD back up to a 20-year-old's levels, now these sirtuins have the ability to slow aging, repair cells, and lower inflammation, among other things that they're known to do. And that's why we take NMN or NR to get our natural defenses against aging back up to what they were when we were young.
Any value in taking, say, B3, NR, and NMN? Like having a concoction of the three to get different benefits?
It's not known because it just hasn't been tested. You could make a case that you're throwing a wider bet instead of betting on one horse. But I don't see any scientific reason why it'd be better to mix them. I know some people are trying. No, I mean, it would be a long discussion, I would say, about the nuances of what taking one versus the other versus a combo might have. There might be different effects on the microbiome, might be different effects on the brain. So I suppose if you're a betting man and you want to spread your bets, you could try a bit of each and see how it goes. But scientifically, both should work. And so, that's why I take pure NMN. I don't take a product. I'm not taking a product that's out there. I make my own NMN because I get asked every day, literally every day, what company should people buy from? And I wish I knew. I don't test products. I don't know which ones are good. I would say look for the letters GMP on the side, good manufacturing practices. Look for a company that's been around for a number of years and is trustworthy. And if they provide the analytics from a third party, so I'm drawing a graph on the screen, analytics, then that's even better because at least it's some evidence that it's a pure product. The problem is that most of these products, at least half of them, don't have what's on the label. And that's another reason why I want to make a medicine, because if you don't have what's on the label and you make a medicine, you're going to jail. So you can be guaranteed that what's on the label in a medicine is real. And that's another level of comfort that I want to bring, certainly patients and maybe eventually individuals whose doctors give them access to the medicine that I'm trying to make.
Do I have it correct? You take a gram of NMN in the morning with fat to help with absorption?
Well, the NMN is water soluble, so you can drink that. I have water with me all the time. I'm drinking water here. But the resveratrol is like brick dust. It does not dissolve. It'll fall to the bottom of your glass, but it will dissolve in a yogurt or olive oil or something fatty or full of protein, like Icelandic yogurt, Greek yogurt. So that's what I do with the resveratrol. Most of these purified plant polyphenols, quercetin, fisetin, apigenin, resveratrol. By the way, these are all SIRT1 activators that all activate one of the sirtuins. But that's a separate issue. These are all very insoluble molecules. They're typically extracted with alcohols. And so what you get is insoluble in water. So you want to at least take it with a meal, or even better, mix it with something before you swallow it. Now, there is a molecule that boosts NAD that's not NR and NMN. There's one that's really good, particularly in dogs, called NAR, nicotinic acid riboside. And that's a really interesting molecule because in dogs it works so well that it boosts their NAD dramatically. And that's something that my brother and I have been using on his dogs and in clinical trials. And I'm pretty excited because we tend to forget that dogs are members of our own families and that they need care as well. And so we made a supplement for dogs, my brother and I, so that they don't get left behind. And my goal, if I could, is to make a dog live 80 years as well.
Wow. What's the name of that molecule again? Because I know in your book you talked about using NMN with your dogs at that time. So is this the next iteration of that?
Yes. For dogs, it's better than NMN. It's called NAR. And is it all right if I mention the product?
Please
would your
do,
listeners be interested? It's called Leap Years. Leap Years. You can get it at leapyears.com. And it's a little treat. And you get little ones for little dogs and big ones for big dogs. And it also has a little component called a senolytic that destroys old cells in the body. And that combination, there's so many people online getting excited about the product because they see their old dogs getting rejuvenated and behaving differently. A lot of anecdotal evidence and even a small clinical trial that showed positive effects on behavior in the dogs, more engagement. And so I'm really excited about dogs as well as humans benefiting from this research.
Well, while we're on dogs, let's stick there for a bit. What other supplements do you recommend along with this supplement you've created to help with longevity?
In dogs or in humans?
Dogs.
This is the only product I'm aware of that provides a longevity supplement for dogs. But what I do know is that fresh food, or at least frozen fresh food, is very helpful for a dog's longevity. And restricting their food, or at least don't overfeed your dog. A lot of dogs, particularly dogs like Labradors, are overweight, and that will greatly speed up aging of your dog. So, your dog, like a Labrador, will always want to eat. It'll always be hungry. Unfortunately, they have a mutation that makes them hungry and never satisfied. If you give them food whenever they're hungry, they're going to live a short lifespan. There was a study in Labradors that if you feed them, I think it was 25% less than what would be a standard diet for a Labrador, they lived years longer. And so I'm not saying make your dog hungry, but I am saying watch your dog's weight, keep them lean, and maybe just give them, if they can handle it, one meal a day. Um, it's actually the worst thing you can do for a dog is to overfeed them. But the supplement leap years seems to be a really good thing to do at late in life. If you have a dog that's middle aged or old, you see these benefits within just a week of giving the treats.
Interesting. I just know even in the health and wellness space now for dogs, there's all sorts of different supplements you can get: fish oils, green powders, turmeric, things that you would put in that food along with your supplement to extend that dog's life, if there's anything there.
Yeah. Well, you did jog my memory. Those supplements have not, as far as I'm aware, been tested like leap years has in a rigorous clinical trial with a double-blind placebo control. And I'm happy to be corrected. I'm unaware of, say, curcumin or turmeric being tested in a really rigorous trial. Now, does that mean it doesn't work? No. It's likely to reduce inflammation in your dog. Glucosamine for joints, sure. Try it. See if your dog responds. There's no real harm. I'm unaware of any long-term harm from these natural compounds. They've been in the human food supply for millennia. Fish oil too. Fish oil is one of the safest natural molecules you can give an animal or a human. I was speaking to an executive at a pharmaceutical company that made fish oil as a drug. Fancy that. But they made it very pure. And they said fish oil is the only medicine that they make that has no side effects.
Do you personally take fish oil?
Definitely. Daily. I've been taking that for 20 years or more. I take a fish oil that has extra omega-6 and 9. I'm big on omega-9s as well, which is olive oil, which olive oil has. And so, the simple answer is yes, I take fish oil as part of my staple. I can run through briefly the kind of things that I take in addition to the morning.
I want to jump in real quick. Let's finish the dog piece and we'll come back to you and what you're doing. We mentioned, I think you said whole food for a dog. How do you feel about a raw food diet for dogs?
And that would include raw meat.
Yeah, I'm a dog lover myself, and I have a 9-year-old Australian Shepherd, and we feed her frozen raw meats. So we thaw it out by the container, and we've been feeding her that for years, and we love it.
It's great. Definitely. Now, include some vegetables in there because the plants themselves have healthy molecules, not just the vitamins, but there are polyphenols in the plants as well. But yeah, if it's unprocessed, I'm in favor of it. Yeah, I used to feed my dog when I was a teenager a product I won't name. I might get sued, but it was leftovers boiled to hell. With jelly. The stuff. You shake it out of the can and it stands upright. That stuff is not anywhere near as nutritious. And it's my belief that switching to fresh food is the way to go for longevity in dogs and cats for that matter.
All right, so to kind of summarize what we said there, raw food is good, definitely whole food for a dog. There's this new supplement that you and your brother came up with. We'll link that in the show notes. And then frequency of eating. So 1 meal a day, or at least making sure the dog's not eating throughout the day and being cognizant of how much the dog's eating.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Oh, and exercise. Don't forget that. If they're a big dog, get them out of the house. Let them run because that's what they're meant to do.
For sure. Okay, let's come back to you now. We were just talking about fish oil. So take it from there, other supplements you're taking on a regular basis.
Well, I'm a fan of physetin, which is a polyphenol that activates sirtuins, and it is also a senolytic to destroy the zombie cells. So occasionally I take a high dose of that, 2 grams for a few days. Quercetin is also a senolytic. Take that, not every day, but every few weeks I take some of that. What do I take daily? Let me think. CoQ10, because I'm on a statin. I have been on a statin since I was 29. Fish oil, vitamin D3, K2 combo. K2, very important to keep the calcium out of your arteries and make sure it goes in your bones. A vitamin B supplement, because I'm on a vegetarian-based diet. Vitamin B is important, particularly B12. But I do measure all my vitamins to make sure I'm not overdoing it or underdoing it. I don't take a multivitamin. I make sure I get as much as I can from my diet. I take supplements that Serena makes. So my partner Serena has a line of supplements, and she just gave me a bunch. So there I take magnesium at night. I take a product called Sweet Dreams, which is great for putting me to sleep at night. I'm no longer taking Ambien, zolpidem, as it's known. Let's see. I think if you went to my kitchen or my bathroom, you might be shocked because there's bottles everywhere, and I just know instinctively what to take and do. But to do it, live on a show is different.
Are you still taking the baby aspirin? Or it might have been a full aspirin.
I am. I'm taking the 81 milligrams. Now, I know it's controversial because there's some studies that say it doesn't help with mortality. I'm still not convinced it's dangerous for me. And often when something's dangerous that might help and it's cheap, I take it. So I'm still in favor of baby aspirin, though not as gung-ho as I was 10 years ago. But I still think that it's good for stopping clotting, which is still a big cause of death and stroke in people.
So before you mentioned, was it metformin in the morning with the resveratrol and NMN?
Yeah, well, I used to take metformin at night.
And now it's berberine or metformin, right?
Yeah, mostly berberine because my stomach just can't handle metformin long term. I get a lot of acid reflux. But yeah, berberine is a poor man's version of metformin and has been shown in clinical studies, multiple clinical studies, that a gram and even better 2 grams a day can lower blood sugar. Seems to work by a very similar mechanism, inhibiting complex 1 of the respiratory chain in mitochondria, and even shows signs of lowering cholesterol. So I've switched now predominantly to berberine instead of metformin. But if you can take metformin and you don't feel acid reflux or sick because of it, I still think metformin's a really good option. Just you need to talk to your doctor about it because it's a prescription medicine.
How are you feeling about rapamycin these days?
I'm currently taking rapamycin. I take it once a week, and I take a low dose. I won't say exactly what dose because it'll be all over the internet, but it's a low dose of rapamycin, and I'm feeling good on that. The only time I don't take rapamycin these days is if I injure myself. Um, I do a lot of yard work, gardening, and if I cut myself or whatever happens, I don't take rapamycin because I want to heal quickly. But other than that, I'm still in favor of rapamycin. The low dose doesn't seem to have any serious side effects. The worst side effect I've seen and experienced is a canker sore. And anyone who cries over a canker sore is a baby, but I generally only get one of those every 6 months.
How do you feel about iodine?
Haven't seen enough data to convince me, but I'm open to being convinced.
And then what you're taking for an omega is a fish oil, so you're getting an animal product there with the diet that is primarily vegan.
Right. So I still will use and eat animal products. I just focus as much as I can every day on plant-based foods. Yeah.
And when you do eat animals, do you have a hierarchy of good, better, best, and then things you totally avoid?
Yeah, I do. It's a combination of what I really want to eat and also the impact on the planet. I try to have a minimal impact. And I know it's debatable, but my view on this is that eating plants and things like seaweed are actually better for the planet in terms of methane production. So what's the order? I'm a sucker for sushi. I know it's not great, but very occasionally I'll eat a little bit of sushi. Um, then I would go for a fish, a cooked fish. And then after that, it's pretty rare. I rarely would eat pork or chicken, and red meat. I can't remember last time I ate red meat over the last 3 years.
But before 3 years ago, were you eating quite a bit of meat? Was it a big shift for you?
I've avoided a lot of meat for most of my life. I was convinced by the book, The Okinawa Diet. I don't know if you remember it. It came out in the late 90s or early 2000s. And the Okinawans primarily get their protein from fish, but mostly it's plant-based, it's soy, it's vegetables. They do a lot of walking and moving as well. And I went on that diet for about 2-3 years until I had kids, and that blew that up. But you can't feed your kids Okinawan food and expect them to thrive, I don't think. But they certainly weren't keen on it. But with that mindset, having read that book by the Wilcox brothers, I was convinced that limiting meat and making it fish predominantly was the way to go. But I used to go out to pubs and eat ribs and that kind of stuff, or a steak very occasionally. I don't do that now. But most of my life, I've tend to avoid breakfast and eat. If I ate a meat, it would be chicken probably. I've never been a really big red meat guy anyway, even though I'm Australian. I would say that if you want to know the timeline of my life, I grew up eating a lot of meat because my mother thought that was the way you decorate the meat with vegetables. That was her view of life. And then I got into my 20s and I needed to lose a lot of weight because my mother was an overfeeder. And I switched a lot to vegetables and stuck with that. And the longer I've lived, the more vegetables I've been eating consistently.
And I believe you said you fast till around lunch or early afternoon. When typically will you break your fast?
Well, I try to go as long as possible. Part of it's driven by social matters, right? I have lunches with people. I have a partner who doesn't like me just watching her eat. Um, but if I can, I would go till dinner before I eat anything, a late dinner actually. But usually, when I'm with Serena, we grab a late lunch around 2 or 4. Sometimes we just work so hard we forget to eat. And then I try not to eat too late at night, though I am bad at that. I'm prone to snacking rice crackers at night in front of a movie. But my ideal would be to stop eating at around 8 and then not eat again till 4. And sometimes I do, and sometimes I'm not so good. But in general, I rarely eat a breakfast. It's probably once every few months I would eat a hearty breakfast.
And you mentioned the other factor there is being busy, but it definitely sounds like one of the reasons you're eating within a narrowed window is health benefits. Talk about the benefits you're trying to get by eating ideally that one meal a day.
Yeah. So I've just looked into the history and the science of fasting, and I wrote about it in Lifespan, the book. And to me, I'm convinced that fasting is really healthy. If you just look at societies that fast, they're healthier. If you look at the Okinawans, they're not eating 3 meals a day. I'm sure that our ancestors in Africa were not planning 3 meals a day. So I think that what we get from fasting is turning on the body's natural defenses against aging. The sirtuin genes come on when you're fasted or exercising. NAD is produced when you're fasting or exercising. And so all the science, in my view, is pointing in that direction, that not constantly eating or being in a fed state is beneficial. And we know that's true for diabetes, right? Diabetes is a form of accelerated aging anyway. And so I'm convinced that making my body go into ketosis and making my blood sugar go lower and making insulin come on is turning on my defenses against aging. And It's the sirtuins, it's AMP kinase, it's mTOR, the target of rapamycin, mTOR. And those three main ones I'm trying to modulate, boosting sirtuins with NAD, boosting AMP kinase with low glucose levels and berberine and metformin, and then lowering mTOR activity by being low on amino acids or low on meat-based amino acids. And then I get, I think, the triple benefit of those three defensive pathways that undoubtedly can slow aging.
On that latter pathway, you mentioned the fact that animal protein would activate that pathway specifically. Is there a difference there between amino acids from animals versus plants on that pathway?
Yeah. So the real offenders are the branched chain amino acids. I did a PhD on and cloned some genes on branched chain amino acid biochemistry, and so I know a fair bit about it. And those amino acids, namely leucine, isoleucine, and valine, are found in abundance, particularly in animal-based protein. They, of course, are in plant-based, but they're not as abundant. And it's those ones that activate mTOR and go against what we think slows aging. Now, there is a time and a place for taking in branched chain amino acids. Like if you injure yourself or you exercise, by all means, get some extra aminos. But I think doing that every day constantly, being bathed in these branched chain amino acids, is not the best for longevity. So I like to pulse it. If I've exercised, I'm going to eat extra protein, usually plant-based, but some people take collagen protein. That's fine. But there are days when I will obviously limit meat, but also limit how much I eat so that my body gets into that defense mode as well. So it's an abundance mode and then an adversity mode. And I switch between the two. I prefer to be mostly in the adversity mode and then work out for a few times a week, go running, fast. No, the abundance mode is the workout and the fed state. So I do that a few times a week. And I think one of the mistakes that some people make is they say one of these modes is better than the other, right? You go on the internet, there are even doctors who say you should be always eating meat. That's all it is. You'll grow fast, you'll heal fast. Yeah, that's true. But that's like burning the candle at both ends. You'll run out of life sooner, I think. So I want to have, when you need to burn the candle fast, burn it, but also conserve things and go into adversity mode and don't eat as much meat and don't eat as often. And certainly don't consume a lot of sugar because that'll also trigger this abundance mode that turns off our defenses.
All right. So mTOR is not bad. We just want it regulated. And when we have it periodically, we want it periodically throughout our life, not all the time activated. And the animal proteins rich in branched chain amino acids are going to activate mTOR more than the plant amino acids.
That's right. And one of my former students, who's now a successful professor, Dudley Lamming, has shown that if you reduce the amount of branched chain amino acids in an animal's diet, just take one out, like isoleucine, they live a lot longer and they're a lot healthier. And so that kind of work, in mice at least, really fits with this being true, is that when your body feels like it's lacking one of the branched chain amino acids, you get health benefits in the long run.
So it sounds like collagen you're okay with. Is that something you include in your routine at all? Using a supplement of that?
I don't, because I get plenty of protein from pea protein. My diet is very well thought out, and Serena's my coach. So we're eating a lot of hummus and baba ganoush and and smoothies, this kind of stuff with plant-based. So I don't feel like I need to be taking collagen. But I'm interested in collagen because there are hydroxy amino acids like hydroxyproline that seem to trigger other survival defense pathways that are not just about amino acids, but can even turn the body's repair systems on. There's a good paper on that looking at hydroxyproline alone can help cells proliferate. So I think there's a lot to be said for collagen. I just don't find in my current lifestyle a need for that.
How do you look at macros? Are you somebody that throughout a typical day you like to get within a certain range of protein, carbs, and fat? Or just eating what you consider a healthy diet rounds those out?
Well, I'm very attuned to my body at this point, having measured it a lot, and I know when I've gained 1% body fat. So I don't I don't monitor the macros. I don't count them. I've learned from experience what I need, and I can adjust during the day. But generally, if I'm eating fresh food that's freshly picked, or it's still just been recently harvested, it's alive, then I'm not worried about the ratio. I think that just comes naturally to me. Now, if you're a novice and you don't know, I think it's a good idea. You could use one of the apps that tells you if you've had a good ratio of the various macronutrients of fat, carbohydrate, protein. In my experience, I've been doing this for so long. I think I'm pretty good at it. But I don't worry that much about it. I think you can worry too much. Part of longevity is not worrying and having a really relaxed and mentally healthy life. And so I try not to stress too much about the details. And if I'm getting good meals and they're fresh and they're mostly plant-based, then I'm good. And if I start to gain weight, which I did recently, I don't know if anyone noticed, but I did gain weight. Serena and I were having some fun over the summer watching movies. It took me about 2 weeks to shed it, but I'm pretty strict, right? If I want to shed it, I do it. It's going to happen. There's no question. And then I get back to the weight that I want. And so that's really how I do it. Is if I gain a few pounds, then it's not for long. I bring my weight back to the exact point that I feel comfortable.
Take me through that process. You've gained some weight. You know it's time to buckle down and lose whatever it is, 5, 10 pounds. What does that process look like?
Well, step one is, hey, Serena, I'll see you in a couple of months. I'm kidding, but it does help when she's not around because she really likes to eat. But that said, part of the joys of my life is eating with her. I did do a lot of work this summer. I had decided I was going to renovate my house, which I have neglected. And so I was doing a lot of building. So every day I was carrying wood and banging things and climbing stairs and climbing ladders. That was what I needed to tip the scales, excuse the pun. And I also was eating just one small meal a day. And that was sufficient to shed the weight rapidly. But it's a combination. I don't think it's healthy to just slow your eating. I think you should combine it with exercise. Otherwise, you're going to lose lean muscle as well, which is not good, especially at my age.
How do you look at calories? Are you somebody that counts them at all? Or it sounds like you use intuition more to guide what you're eating?
I do. I do monitor my blood sugar, right? So I'm fairly ritualistic and religious about making sure my blood sugar doesn't spike. But total calories, no, that's all intuition. I know when I've eaten too much in a day, and I'll try to be better the next day to make up for it.
Well, this ties back to intermittent fasting, calorie restriction, which is known in longevity research as being one of, if not the only way to extend lifespan. How do you feel about using that as a tool?
Yeah, I'm still a big proponent of fasting and calorie restriction to some extent. Calorie restriction is not for everybody because it means that you're going to feel hungry a lot of the time. And you also, it's very hard to build up muscle when you're on a calorie restricted diet. So I prefer an eating window. That's how I think of my life is I'm going to eat within this window. And I can eat, not as much as I want, but I can eat pretty well in that time frame, but try not to snack outside that. But calorie restriction, if you're trying to restrict that, very few people succeed. It's got to be something less than 1 in 10 people can do it. I can't do it. I'm supposed to be one of the world's experts, but I cannot calorie restrict. The longest I've gone without food, a long fast, is 24 hours. And I haven't cut my calories back more than, well, in short periods, it's probably more like 50%, but long term, I can't do it. Long term, my body feels weak. My brain is foggy. I get hypoglycemia. So it's not for me. But there are some people that love it. I know people that calorie restrict, that eat tiny little meals throughout the day, some baby food. I think that that's likely to be a recipe for longevity, as you mentioned. There's so much evidence that it's good for you. I just think it's a lifestyle that's not for most people. It's why I don't talk about it as much as I do fasting.
Are you a snacker?
Yeah.
I know a lot of times you're just having one meal a day, but are you snacking? It sounds like you do. Talk about that piece.
I do. I'm better now because I've gotten control over my stress levels. In my 30s and 40s and my 20s, I was a very anxious person. I was worried that the clock was ticking and I was not going to succeed in my mission in life, which was to leave the world a better place. And along with that stress, there was marriage, there was 3 kids, there was financial pressures, and being an academic at Harvard is one of the tougher jobs you can have. And then on top of that, I was in the spotlight, and there are critics of what I do and jealous scientists, I guess you could say. So that was a stressful life. But what I did when I met Serena, in part because she insisted that I look at my life differently, I'm a lot calmer, and my snacking has gone away with that for the most part. Unless we're having a real treat and, like I said, watching a movie or something. But generally, I don't snack like I used to because of stress. I can resist the fridge, and I don't feel as hungry as I used to either. I'm kind of okay with a little bit of hunger. I feel good when I have those hunger pains. So I would say if you're a snacker and you can't resist the fridge, there are 2 things I'd say. One is don't bring that food into your house if you can. Like it's very easy to bring snacks from the supermarket. But if you bring them home and your house is filled with snacks, if you reduce your stress level, you'll be much better off. And now, I don't know if you can tell, I speak more slowly, I'm more present, I'm more thoughtful. And I think that's partly why I'm healthier, is that my mental stress, my cortisol levels are way down compared to just 3 years ago.
If you enjoyed that clip, you're going to want to head over here and catch a full episode. I'll see you over there.
We're working currently on making a single chemical or a single natural molecule that you can take as a pill that would reverse the aging process. I think that what we get from fasting is turning on the body's natural defenses against aging.